Caleb Holt may be the talk of the town among Arizona's freshman class, but there's another newcomer who could be Tommy Lloyd's X factor this season.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Friday, and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. We are your co-hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade. Today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. We are continuing our series discussing what we originally called, quote, freshman breakouts, but what we are now calling the Keaton Kandidates. Again, as Isaac said on Wednesday's show, spelled with a K for candidates, named after former, Illinois great Keaton Wagler, who was outstanding last year, the 5th overall pick after being, Isaac, we were shocked when we saw this, the 261st ranked freshman in the 2025 class at 247 Sports' composite rankings. He went from 261st to 5th in the NBA draft, an incredible glow up for Wagler last year at Illinois. And while that kind of growth and meteoric rise doesn't happen very often, we do see players outside the top 30, 40, 50, 100 of their recruiting classes who have much better seasons than anticipated. Reed Shepherd a couple of years ago at Kentucky was a big one as well. And so we're trying to predict who those players might be. It's similar to the breakout series we did for sophomores, juniors, and seniors over the last couple of weeks. Today, we're talking about freshmen in the Big East, the SEC, and we're talking about players in the Big 12, the ACC, and the best of the rest. On Wednesday's show, we talked about the Big East, the SEC, and the Big 10, each of us picking one freshman each from those conferences. Lots of fun to kind of analyze some of these younger kids that maybe aren't on everybody's radar, but that might have big freshman seasons. We're starting in the Big 12, and I teased it in the open, so Isaac, I'll toss to you. One of Tommy Lloyd's freshmen, maybe not the one everybody's thinking, could be a big part of this team in 26-27.
Yes, everybody obviously knows Caleb Holt, but he does not qualify for this conversation because he's the number 2 player into the 247 composite. Mm-hmm. But just like last year, Tommy Lloyd has multiple highly heralded freshman on his team, and it's the other one that I'm going to go with here because he is not a 5-star. He's outside it. So less of really a true Keaton candidate because he's not outside even the top 100. He's ranked 45th at the 247 composite, and that's Cameron Holmes. He's a 6'6", 215-pounder. Yeah. I love the size here. I'm very kind of curious about him. He's a 6'6" small forward from Arizona, so he lives in state. And look, the interesting thing is you think about Arizona, who should be a very good team. Yet again, they get back the guys that we think will probably be their starting 4 and 5 in Ivan Karchenkov and Mo Krivas. Karchenkov could be the 3 at whatever. And we assume maybe Derek Dixon, the North Carolina transfer, is going to start at the 1 with Caleb Holt at the 2. But the 5th player in that starting lineup, at least on paper, seems like it's going to be Cameron Holmes. And so very interesting. A lot of the guys we've been talking about in this exercise have been like, we think we see a path to some playing time, but who knows? Holmes seems like he should probably be in the starting lineup here. I love what he's going to give. And it's interesting, Andy, because last year at this time, as you looked at Aristode and as you looked at Koa Pete and as you looked at Braden Burries, it was like, can Tommy use all these freshmen? Like he's usually relying on some of the upperclassmen. Well, he did have some good returners and good transfer upperclassmen, but I tell you what, those 3, or at least 2 of those 3 freshmen were really, really critical for that Final Four team. And so if Arizona is going to be great again, it cannot just be Caleb Holt. They're going to need Cameron Holmes as well. And oh, by the way, we're going to have multiple conversations on this episode about NBA bloodlines and pedigree and DNA. Cameron is the younger brother of former Dayton player Dayron Holmes, which, by the way, Andy, for those who might remember, Dayron, big D, little A, capital R, we were joking before the show. The Ma and Pa Holmes really missed an opportunity here to go C, little A, little M, big R. Like, let's just keep that Ron thing running here. I don't know what happened there. Maybe a mess up on the birth certificate somewhere. But all that to say, big fan of Cameron Holmes. Excited to see what he's going to do at Arizona.
Yeah, I will say push back maybe on the starting lineup with RJ Godfrey coming in.
Yeah. Now that he's there, good call.
Now that he's there, I think Karchenkov slides to the 3. But again, the eligibility for any of these guys is a little bit up in the air, so you never quite know what's going to happen there. I also think Karchenkov will spend a lot of time at the 4, and I think that does open up Holmes a chance to play a lot of minutes at the 3. He's a fantastic player. I watched him a lot in high school. I think he landed at a great spot at Arizona. I think this is going to be a really good fit for him. And yeah, the NBA bloodlines do not hurt at all in this case for Holmes. This is the highest ranked player that I picked. I think he's the second highest ranked player that you picked in Holmes, but I'm going with another guy who's actually just inside the top 40. I think the highest ranked of any of the players that we picked, but still a guy that I don't think is on a ton of people's radars. Yeah, and that's Anthony Felesi at Oklahoma State, 38th ranked player in the class, according to the composite. 247 actually has him up at 33. Rivals has him 40th. ESPN has him 48th. So they're all pretty close on consensus here. 6'5", 200-pound guard. So they're a big-bodied wing player here for Felesi. And he's really, really long. 7-foot wingspan for Felesi. He's tough. He's hard-nosed. He plays hard on the defensive end of the floor. For those of you who listened to Wednesday's show, a lot of the stuff that I said about Hurley Brutus for Butler kind of applies to Felesi as well. He just has a more polished offensive game than Brutus does, which is why he is much higher in the rankings at this point, again, just inside the top 40. He was somebody who was committed to Pitt for a long time, ended up decommitting from Pitt earlier in like April, I think it was April or May of this year, and then landed at Oklahoma State under Coach Steve Lutz. Been a really strong offseason for Oklahoma State. We've talked about a handful of their players as potential breakout candidates. Gribovich was one, as well as Julius Halifanoa, their presumed starting center. But I think that Felesi is a guy who, I don't know that he starts, but I think he carves out a significant role right away. There's a lot of wings on this roster. Obviously, Jordan Burks is going to play a big role. Another freshman, Latrell Allman, is going to play a big role. You got Luka Bogovat coming over from North Carolina, older guy who should have a role, if not in the starting lineup, at least a sixth man type role. But Felesi's got that length. He's got that tenacity. He's got a developing offensive game. He was a late riser, and so often those kids who are late risers in their class end up really exploding as freshmen because they're sort of just carrying that momentum with them into their first season of college. I think Felesi landed at a phenomenal spot to develop his talent. And I think that while he's going to get much better in year 2 and year 3, I think he's good enough to be an impact player for the Cowboys right now.
I'm very curious about this Oklahoma State team, what it's going to look like, how they're going to be. And obviously part of them rising up is some freshmen that might not be expected to popping. And so I think what a coup it would be for the Cowboys if Felesi is able to step up and do what you're expecting of him, Andy. That wingspan, that plus, what is that like? He's 6'5", 7 foot. That's like a +7 wingspan. I mean, that is insanity. I love to see that. A couple honorable mentions here in the Big 12. Ikene Eloze at Houston, who's number 52 in the 247 composite, a 6'2" combo guard. Hey, we know what Kelvin Sampson can do with tough-nosed guards, and so we'll see how he can factor into Houston's rotation this year. And then also in Ames, Iowa, at Iowa State, number 101 in the 247 composite is Dorian Ronaldo Comlin, who's a 6'10" center, a little bit slight. We'll see what he's able to do there in Ames. But, man, I mean, again, talking about defensive-minded teams, if he can slot in and do that, that would be great for TJ Otzelberger and company. Now, Andy, Mr. Cameron Holmes isn't the only player we're talking about today with some NBA bloodlines, because both of our ACC picks are the sons of former NBA players, one of which is a Hall of Famer. What? Yes, they've got the pedigree to blow up at their respective schools. We'll get Andy's pick first in just a second. Right after I tell you about Indeed. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs, like skills, certifications, and location. So less time is spent searching and more time is spent finding the right fit. People are actually finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute that I'm talking to you, companies just like yours are making 27 hires with Indeed, according to their worldwide data. So whether it's deadlines piling up, too much on one person's plate, or trying to scale something really quickly, the right hire can completely change how a team operates. And that's why getting in front of qualified candidates truly matters. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. That's less stress, it's less time, but more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of our show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So head there right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On College Basketball. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. I want to thank you all for making Locked On College Basketball your first listen or watch of the day. Happy Friday. Hope you got great plans this weekend. Just a couple more weekends and college football will be upon us, and we are now less than 3 months away from the college basketball season. By the way, if you'd like to get ad-free audio versions of the show, come check out the Locked On College Basketball Everydayer Club. That link is down in the show notes. Andy, we move now to the ACC, where both of our Keaton candidates are the sons of NBA players, but yours is a Hall of Famer with some pedigree. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with Aziz Olajuwon, of course, the son of former Houston Rockets legend Hakeem Olajuwon. And Aziz is not the same player. For starters, he is not 7 feet tall. He is 6'7", 210 pounds. So he is not going to play the same position. I don't know if he's got the dream shakedown or not, but he's probably not going to be posting up a whole lot of guys under Kyle Smith at Stanford. 75th ranked player in the composite rankings, very consistent across the major recruiting sites. He was 75th exactly at Rivals, 74th at 247 and 71st at ESPN. Again, 6'7", a little bit slight of frame right now, but most guys coming into their freshman year are. So we'll see. I'm sure he'll be able to put some weight on. He's a late blooming big wing, which is, again, exactly what we talked about with Felesi in the first segment, those late blooming guys who kind of pop towards the end of their high school career oftentimes tend to roll that momentum into a strong start to their college careers. And we could see that very much here with Olajuwon, who is like already a tailor-made, pre-packaged 3-and-D wing. Like, this is the kind of player that he is. He is a lights out three-point shooter, dropped 40% of his threes in the EYBL last summer, 49% on catch and shoot threes. Like, this dude can straight up light it up from beyond the arc. He's a very good three-point shooter, very good defensive player. That should not shock anybody, being the son of one of the greatest defensive players in the history of basketball in Hakeem Olajuwon. And I think there's not a ton of creative on-ball juice here. He's not somebody who's going to run your offense. I think, you and I have talked about how we like to pick players at programs that have developed freshmen like kind of unexpectedly in the past. And obviously Stanford did that very much with Ibuka Okori last year. If he does it again, if Kyle Smith does it again with Olajuwon, it won't be because they are similar players. Ibuka Okori was an on-ball demon, and Olajuwon is not that at all. He is an off-ball player. He is a relocate, catch, pop, shoot a three, play hard on the defensive end of the floor guy. He's a much more of a floor raiser than a ceiling raiser, both for Stanford and whatever NBA team ends up with him. But he's the kind of player that I think could get featured enough by the Cardinal that I don't know that he's a one and done necessarily, but that he certainly outperforms where you might expect a 75th ranked recruit in a class to do. And I look at this team, there's not a ton of depth on the wing, or at least not a ton of players that I think overwhelmingly, that guy will for sure play over Olajuwon. Like, I could see him starting. I could see him being a sixth man. Like, I can see, and again, because he is the kind of player that doesn't need touches, because the skills that he have are so obviously translatable. Like, if the defense is good enough, which you expect that it will be, and the three-point shooting, comes with him from high school, he's a dude who plays right away. Is he all ACC? No, not necessarily, but he's an impact player. He impacts winning right away. And I think that's what we're going to get from him. Again, a kid who visited Houston, which makes sense because of where his dad went, but he also visited Cincinnati. He visited Vanderbilt. Like, he checked out a lot of high-profile basketball programs and lands under one of the better unheralded coaches in the sport in Kyle Smith. I think this is a great fit, and I think Olajuwon's going to be a really nice piece for this team in the ACC.
Andy, earlier I was saying, like, with, again, great pushback from you on RJ Godfrey about Holmes being maybe one of the more likely starting candidates out of our group. As I've thought about it more, Olajuwon actually might be, assuming Godfrey's eligibility.
Mhm.
Honestly, Olajuwon might be actually the correct answer for that out of all our picks here, at least of the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
I'm assuming our best of the resters are probably going to slide into the starting lineup. But yeah, I think there's a real path to that for Olajuwon as I think about who they go with. In fact, thinking about some of Stanford's roster, like there's quite a few freshmen that are going to have a shot at starting specifically in the backcourt this year for the Cardinals. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. Obviously that pedigree with his dad going to be really interesting to see. Similar to how we had Carlos Boozer at the Twins games for Duke, like all the time last season. I hope Hakeem is at Stanford games all the time this year. That'd be electric. Andy, we're going to switch to my pick, which is on the other coast. Brandon Bass Jr. at Florida State, ranked 115th in the 247 composite, 6'5", 190-pound shooting guard for Luke Laux. Another lefty. This is my second lefty pick of our Keaton candidates. We talked about both of our ACC picks are the son of NBA players, obviously, because he's a junior. He's the son of Brandon Bass Sr., who played at LSU, was power forward there, 33rd overall pick in the 05 draft. Great NBA role player for, most of 12 years, particularly early 10s playing both at Orlando and then at Boston was where he really shone. But Andy, as I think about this with Bass, part of it for me is, remember last year in the first year of Luke Laux really leaned into we're going to bomb away from three NBA style. They shifted midseason because it just wasn't working for the Seminoles, dude. But I feel like the Noles are really still in a transitional period, and someone of Bass's capability, his pedigree, like I feel like he's got a little bit of a wonky shot if you go look at it, but it goes in. There's some other areas of his game he needs to grow in. But if Coach Laux is like, you know what, let's really lean into that three-point shooting again, I think he's somebody that could really benefit from that. He's got good positional size, is indeed a talented scorer, great free throw shooter. Again, there are some holes maybe defensively I want to see him grow in. But again, the DNA's there, the pedigree's there, the scoring's there, and the opportunity within system fit is there as well. Man, I'm really curious to see what happens with Brandon Bass this year.
Yeah, it's funny that both of our picks were not only sons of NBA players, but they both are much smaller than their NBA fathers and play different positions. Aziz is a 3-and-D wing whose dad was obviously an iconic center. And then Bass Jr. here is a 6'5" shooting guard whose dad was a power forward at the NBA level. Just kind of funny that you sort of, when you hear a player's name, and actually this is true of one of the players we discussed as a potential sophomore breakout candidate also in the ACC, which was Jermaine O'Neal Jr., who is not a 6'11" rim protecting big man like his father was, but is a 6'5" small forward. So it's just kind of funny to see that the dichotomy of these guys not quite being the same size and the same position as their dads. But I like the Bass pick. I think he's going to be, if he gets that opportunity to really light it up for Florida State. Again, I think Laux made the right decision to kind of scale back the three-point shooting last year, but that doesn't mean they won't go back to doing it quite a bit this upcoming season as well. And I think he's a kid who could really benefit. There's talented players in front of him, but he has every opportunity to get a big role in year one. So I'm excited to see what he can do. As a couple honorable mentions out of the ACC, one of them, one of the only other top 40 players we even mentioned here on the show, Chase Foster, number 39 in the class. He is at Pitt, a 6'8" power forward. And then Caden Allen at Georgia Tech, lots of room to grow and operate at Georgia Tech this upcoming season. 79th ranked recruit in the class, a 6'5" small forward. Well, Isaac, we're going to move on. We got one more segment here of our freshman breakouts, our Keaton candidates. We're talking about the best of the rest. More and more high-ranked freshmen are opting to start their college careers at mid-major schools. This has been a trend we've seen over the last couple of years as players think, well, I'm just going to go play somewhere, get a lot of stats, get a lot of playing time, and then transfer to a high major program. We got a lot of guys who are looking like they're doing that this year, including two that we're going to talk about out on the West Coast to close out the show in just a second. But first, folks, today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Before the season even tips off, everybody's making predictions. Who's going to win the conference? Who's going to make the NCAA tournament? Who's going to be lifting that trophy at the end of the season? And on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. And at Kalshi, they already have win totals for Arizona for Tommy Lloyd's team with Cameron Holmes. You can pick 21 or more wins, 18, 15, 24, even if you're feeling real confident, 27 or more wins. You just pick yes or no. On Kalshi, you're just trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. So trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. And now download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. That's KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Today's episode is also brought to you by Odoo. Folks, running a business, shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that just were never designed to work together. You got an app for accounting, you got another app for inventory, and another for sales, and somehow none of them are able to talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay more organized, and focused on growing the business instead of everyone having to manage software. Because the best organizations, they know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. It's true in sports, just like it's true in business. And again, let's talk about Dusty May. 4 transfers in his starting lineup last year, and yet they go out and win the dang national championship. Yes, they were talented. Yes, Yaxel Lendenberg is great. Yes, May was a phenomenal coach, but it wasn't just all of that. It was a coordinated effort across their entire organization that made them successful, because great organizations, they win when operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right, Isaac, rounding out our Keaton candidates, the best freshmen outside the 5-star consensus rankings at 247 Sports, guys that we think might explode or pop and perform better than expected at their respective schools. We talked on Wednesday's show about players in the Big Ten. We talked about players in the what we did, the Big Ten, we did the SEC, and then we did the Big East. Yep. Mixing them all up already. We talked about the Big 12 today, as well as the ACC. And now, Isaac, we are closing it out with the best of the rest. Non-power conference freshmen. And again, we talked about this. We're seeing more and more top 75, even top 60, sometimes top 50 guys going to non-power conference schools because they have an opportunity to play right away. And of course, now in the transfer portal era, you can just bump to the next school and potentially make a whole heck of a lot of money as a sophomore. Who are you talking about here? And do you think that's somebody that might be exploring that avenue for their first season in college?
I think very much so, Andy. And honestly, that's probably a conversation we just need to have at some point, is reach out to some of these mid and small majors, even the coaches, to say, is that a selling point you are pitching in recruiting? And so I think that's a great observation by you. The player I'm going with is Josiah Johnson, who is ranked 88th in the 247 Sports composite. And Andy, this dude, who is a 6'5", 195-pound point guard, 4 stars, is going to UC Irvine. I crap you not. That is true. He is easily at 247 Sports, the highest ranked recruit in their history in the 247 Sports ranking era. The deal is, Andy, he's from Lakewood, California. From everything I've read about his recruitment and behind the scenes, he wanted to be able to stay close to home. So yes, you're like, we're high. Did he not want to go somewhere higher? Probably so, because there were other higher mid and high major schools that were interested in him, but he just wanted to stay close to home, is at least part of the story here. He's young. He's still 17. Well, turn 18 during this first year of college. Because of some of where he was playing, I think part of it is was playing on the Adidas 3SSB tour. What am I looking? Circuit. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word circuit. And just really hasn't played a ton of elite competition yet. But he's just got he's got like watching tape. He's got great feel for the game, obviously great size, above average athletic capability. I wouldn't call him really like elite athlete, but is above average. And so lots of capability there. And I think absolutely like stay close to home. He is the 12th ranked point guard in this class, Andy, at 80. Like that's wild to think about. The 12th ranked point guard in this class is going to UC Irvine. That's crazy to me. And so really excited to see what he does at that level. Like I would expect could easily be among the nation's leaders, whether it's in points or assists or something, just because he can run roughshod over a lot of the Big West. Also, trivia question that I would not have known. Where did Olivier Rioux, the tallest teenager in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, the former Florida player, wind up? Also at UC Irvine. I didn't realize that till I was looking at their roster as I was looking at Josiah Johnson. So really curious about this, Andy. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you said kind of describes accurately why he would go to UC Irvine. I mean, the fact that he's young, he's 17 years old, and didn't play a ton of high-level competition, like you could see maybe a high major program is interested in bringing him in, but they're interested in developing him behind the scenes, having him be their third string point guard in year one. You go to somewhere like that, you get pushed around a little bit because you still got some growing to do. You're still, younger than everybody else. And then if you don't want to stay at that program for year two, what are your options? Whereas now you go to UC Irvine, you stay close to home, you're more comfortable there. You get an opportunity to play big minutes. And you get to develop, you get to grow, like physically grow, mature, physically, emotionally, all of that while playing 28, 30, 35 minutes a game, playing really well, and then making millions of dollars to transfer somewhere else as a sophomore when you're more physically mature, when you're more ready to play at that high major level. I mean, this is a very easy decision in my mind for somebody like Josiah Johnson, and I think it's going to pay off really well for him, and I think it's going to pay off really well for the Anteaters as well. Him throwing lobs up to the big man, Olivier Rioux, should be so much fun in that system. I don't typically make Irvine appointment viewing, but I'm going to be checking them out a couple of times this year because I think they're going to be a lot of fun. And Isaac, another team that I'm going to be checking out that I'm used to watching for my Zags in the West Coast Conference, but that I'm not going to watch this year since Gonzaga's moving on to the Pac-12, but might have to make some appointments to watch this team is Pepperdine because they got a really, really good freshman joining this program. Alex Costanza, 6'8" forward. He's the 86th ranked player at 247, but he's 65th in their composite rankings. So again, a borderline top 50 recruit in the composite rankings, and he's going to Pepperdine, who has been at the very bottom of the WCC for a half decade, if not more. At this point, they have really struggled as of late. This is a kid who, like, it's not theoretical that he got high major attention. He absolutely did. He was committed to Georgetown. He was going to go play for Ed Cooley in the Big East. He decommitted from Georgetown. This is a kid who also visited Kansas. He was Bill Self was in his living room, probably metaphorically, but you know what I mean. And yet this kid's going to Pepperdine. He also visited Illinois. He visited Syracuse. Like, he was checking out a lot of high profile places, ends up joining the Waves program in the West Coast Conference, sans Gonzaga. He's a 6'8" forward with a 7'1" wingspan, and he's a playmaker. Like, he is somebody who, he's not like an elite passer, but he is a creator. He plays on the ball. He's a very smooth operator. It's easy to watch him play. Like, you can just tell he moves very fluidly for his size. And what stood out to me in the scouting report written by Adam Finkelstein on 247 was they kind of talked about his stats and his performance benefited a lot because he was the guy at Spire Academy. Like, he was the best player on that team. He was their go-to option. And that obviously makes anybody look a little bit better in the eyes of scouts. And I think he kind of just wanted to ride that momentum for another year because he ends up at Pepperdine where he's probably the best player on this roster as a true freshman. Like, if he's not the best player, he's at least a starter and probably somebody who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. And that's not an opportunity you get if you go to a Georgetown or certainly a Kansas or Illinois or a place like that. And so I think that, again, similar to what we talked about with Johnson, you go somewhere where you don't have to go through the shell shock of adjusting to, high major college basketball, while also having to adjust to being somebody who is moving more off the ball and not playing the same role you're used to playing. You go somewhere where you get to keep doing that role and adjust to college basketball, the speed, the pace, the size, the physicality, all of that. And then assuming that he does what I think he is capable of doing at Pepperdine, which would put him in all WCC freshman or all WCC first, second team category, potentially freshman of the year in that conference, then you transfer to one of these schools, or you transfer to a high major school, and maybe you're a bit more prepared for adjusting to an off-ball role. So I think this makes a ton of sense for Costanza, but man, it's going to make Pepperdine a pretty intriguing team to watch as the WCC kind of opens up a little bit with Gonzaga out the door and Randy Bennett out the door at St. Mary's.
Yeah, that is it's so interesting to think about the WCC now and that landscape. Going to be interesting to continue to cover it. Andy, 4 honorable mentions. We're going to start with a player from each of those teams you just mentioned, both Gonzaga and St. Mary's. We're going to start with Sam Funchess, who's number 113 in the 247 composite, a 7-foot center at Gonzaga. Andy, the path to playing time right now is not obviously clear because of Gonzaga's loaded front court, which obviously you can speak much more intelligibly on than I can. But you got Braden Huff, you got Masamba Diop, you got now Chauncey Wiggins in the fold, obviously Almanza in the front court as well. So there's a lot of pieces there, but I think Funchess is one of those guys you look to for the future of Gonzaga's front court. And if you can get him to stay in Spokane, my, that could be a lot of fun. By the way, speaking of St. Mary's, number 73 in the 247 composite is Darius Bivens, a little mighty might at St. Mary's, 5'11" point guard. Interested to see him. At Dayton, number 78 in the composite is Aiden Durkak, a 6'6" shooting guard, nice size on the wing there for the Flyers. And then finally, a team we talk a lot about because they're one of the better mid-majors in the land, Sammy Jackson at VCU. Andy is number 64 in the composite, 6'7" small forward. Always curious to see what the Rams are going to do, how they're going to build on getting that first round win in the NCAA tournament last year. As always, gang, we want to hear from you on these things. Who do you think are some Keaton candidates, some breakout freshmen that might be a little bit under the radar right now? Let us know your picks from all the conferences. We'd love to hear from you, whether that's in the Locked On College Basketball Discord, that link's in the show notes, or in the chat, in the link down below, the comments down below on YouTube, whatever it is. For now, though, we're going to get out of here for the weekend. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On College Basketball. As always, apologies to the Lawyer family and the Stanford family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the McBruins. And until Monday, peace.